Have you ever had a tradition that just felt so perfect, so alive, that you thought, this is going to last forever? Well, that's exactly what's at the heart of Ray Lawler's Australian classic, Summer of the 17th Doll. But it's also a story about what happens when that forever suddenly and tragically just stops. For 16 straight years, the rhythm was just unbreakable. Imagine this 5 months of backbreaking work. We're talking hard yakka in the Queensland cane fields. And then the reward 5 whole months of pure, absolute freedom down in the city. This wasn't just some vacation, it was their own little paradise, one they built themselves. So that's the big question, right? The one that just hangs over this whole play. How could a world they built to last, a tradition that seemed so solid, just fall apart? What on earth went wrong? Well, let's dive in and see if we can figure it out.
All right, to really get why the end is so devastating, we've got to go back to the beginning. We need to see just how perfect this whole setup was before, the cracks started to appear.
Now, this was not your typical 1950s kind of thing. Nope, this was something they called the layover. And here's the deal. For 5 months every single year, two really rugged cane cutters, Rue and Barney, would head down to Melbourne to live with two city women. It was this bubble of freedom in what was a pretty buttoned-up, conventional world. No rings, no responsibilities, just the summer. And the absolute foundation of this whole world was the core four, as I like to call them. You had Rue with Olive and his best mate Barney with Nancy. And for 16 years, it was just perfect. It all worked. And look, this wasn't just some fling or a holiday romance. No way. This was a deliberate choice they made to live outside the normal rules, to have this private fantasy world that they got to live out year after year after year. And right at the very heart of this tradition was a symbol, the Cupid doll. You know, those little dolls you win at a carnival? Well, every single year, Rue would bring a new one for Olive. And it was so much more than just some cheap prize. It was like a trophy. It was physical proof that their magical little world was safe, that it was still intact for one more year. But as the title kind of gives away, that 17th summer, that's when everything changes. The world they'd built so carefully is about to get hit with a serious dose of reality. So what's the first crack in the foundation? Well, one of the core four is gone. Nancy, who was Barney's fun-loving partner, has done the one thing they all rejected. She went and got married. And her replacement, this woman Pearl, oh boy, she is everything Nancy wasn't. She's kind of stuffy, judgmental, and she is not impressed by any of this. She's a complete outsider, and just by being there, she throws the whole vibe, the whole delicate balance into absolute chaos. And, oh, the problems do not stop there. It's like everything starts to go wrong at once. Rue, who's always been the big, strong leader, the provider, he shows up broke. Turns out some younger guy took his top spot in the cane fields, so his pride is shot, he's forced to take this embarrassing factory job, and even his friendship with Barney is starting to crack under all the pressure. All the things that made him him are just crumbling. So you can just feel it, can't you? All this tension is just building and building, and it all leads to the play's explosive climax. This is the moment where the fantasy world they've lived in for so long smashes right into the hard, cold wall of reality. Okay, to really get why what happens next is so explosive, you have to get inside Olive's head. For her, the layover wasn't a break from life, it was life. Those 5 glorious months, that was the real thing. Marriage, a mortgage, settling down. To her, that was the trap. That was the boring, ordinary life she had spent her entire adult life proudly saying no thanks to. So you've got Rue, feeling old, broke, and just totally defeated. And in his mind, he sees only one way out. He thinks he's doing the right thing, the honorable thing. He's trying to offer Olive the stability he can't give her with his fists anymore. So he asks her to marry him. But that is not what Olive hears. She doesn't hear a romantic proposal. She hears him giving up. She hears him admitting that their special world failed, that it wasn't good enough. In her eyes, he's trying to bulldoze the beautiful, magical life she loves and replace it with the one thing she hates most in the world, being normal. And after a fight like that, there's just no going back. The magic is gone, it's popped, and all that's left is the grim, sad reality of a broken dream. That fight just shatters absolutely everything. The 17th summer doesn't just end on a bad note, it ends early. Rue and Barney pack their bags and they just leave. Not like the heroes they usually were, heading back to the fields, but as broken, defeated men. The layover is over. For good. And that's the final devastating blow. There will be no 18th doll. The collection, the symbol of their entire life together, will forever be incomplete. Now, to really feel the full weight of this tragedy, there's something else you need to know. This play, Summer of the 17th Doll, it's not the whole story. It's actually the final chapter. See, this play is actually the end of a trilogy. Ray Lawler wrote 2 prequels, Kid Stakes and Other Times, that show us the good old days. They show us the very first summer when they were all young and full of hope, and the middle years when everything was perfect. And knowing that, knowing how beautiful it all was, just makes this ending in 1953 so much more heartbreaking. He shows you paradise, and then he shows you it being lost. So let's just pull all the key facts together, especially if you're studying this. What we've got is a classic Australian play by the one and only Ray Lawler. It's set in Carlton, Melbourne, specifically in the summer of 1953. And remember, it's the tragic final part of a trilogy, with the prequels being Kid Stakes and Other Times. And that central symbol, the thing that ties it all together, it's the Cupid doll, that perfect little symbol of a beautiful but ultimately fragile dream. And all of this leaves us with the play's really haunting final question. Olive, she chose the fantasy over reality. And yeah, in the end, she was left with nothing. But for 16 incredible years, she had everything she ever wanted. So what's better? A beautiful illusion that makes you happy, or a harsh reality that doesn't? That's the question the play leaves you wrestling with long after it's over.